The headlights hit the gravel like knives. 11:38 p.m. Thursday, the kind of late where even the insects sound cautious. Mara Ellison was halfway through turning off the porch light when two black SUVs crawled up the dirt road and stopped at her gate like they owned the night. The beams swept across her orchard, her leaning barn, the sagging fence she hadn't had time, or money, to fix. Her stomach dropped so hard she tasted copper. Nobody came out here after dark. Not unless it was Cole Drayton's people. 2 years ago, a semi blew through a red light on the county highway and turned her parents' truck into twisted metal. Mara inherited 80 acres, a dying apple orchard, and a promissory note that felt like a collar. $162,000 she couldn't pay. Cole Drayton bought the debt 6 months later. He wasn't a bank. He was a warning in a leather jacket. The kind of man who reminded you by leaving a butchered rabbit on your steps or calling at 2 a.m. just to make sure you answered while shaking. Mara reached for the rifle hanging behind the entryway. Old, heavy, her father's, comforting in the stupidest way. She stepped onto the porch in pajama pants and a faded t-shirt, hair shoved into a messy knot. Her thumb found the safety. Her hands felt steady even though her heart was trying to escape her ribs. A door opened. A man stepped out of the first SUV. Not Cole. Not any of Cole's greasy shadows. This man moved like the air parted for him. Dark suit, expensive shoes that should have hated gravel, shoulders broad under the fabric. A scar ran clean from the corner of his right eye down toward his cheekbone, pale in the porch light like a line someone carved with intention. His hair was black with a faint silver at the temples, the kind of gray you earned, not the kind you caught. His eyes were a flat storm color, blue-gray, sharp, tired, awake in the way only dangerous people are awake. He walked to the foot of her steps and stopped like he'd measured the distance between them with a ruler. "Are you Mara Ellison?" His voice was low and controlled. It wasn't polite. It was precise. Mara lifted the rifle and aimed it at his chest. "Private property. Say what you want from there." He didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. "That's not loaded." Her blood chilled. "How?" "I heard the hollow click when you cocked it. Empty chamber. Old habit." His gaze stayed on her face. "Not the gun. I'm not here to hurt you." Mara didn't lower the barrel. "Then why are you here at midnight with a convoy?" He took a breath like he'd been holding it for days. "Because I'm out of time." The sentence landed heavier than it should have. "I'm here to offer you a deal," he said. Mara's laugh came out wrong. Too sharp. Too thin. Deals come with handcuffs. This one comes with paperwork. He reached into his coat slowly, carefully, pulled out his phone, and held it out so she could see the screen. A legal document. Stamps, signatures, paragraphs dense enough to choke. "I need a wife," he said. Mara stared. "Excuse me?" "Before 10 a.m. tomorrow." His eyes didn't waver. "If I'm not married by then, everything my father left transfers to my brother." Mara's mouth went dry. "Why would that matter to me?" "Because my brother is the one funding Cole Drayton." He said it like a fact, like a weather report. "And if he takes control, Cole stops playing with threats and starts collecting in blood." The porch suddenly felt too small. Mara's grip tightened on the rifle stock. "You know about my debt." "I know everything." His gaze sharpened. "The amount, the late fees, the lien, the day Cole left a dead dog at your back door, the calls, the way you sleep in the hallway some nights because it's farther from the windows." Mara's throat closed. She didn't tell anyone that. Not even the diner ladies who pretended not to notice how thin she'd gotten. "Who are you?" she managed. He paused, like he was deciding whether to drop a name or drop a bomb. "Damon Vale." The air shifted. Even the night felt like it recognized it. Everybody in 3 counties knew that surname. Vale wasn't just money. Vale was the word people used when they wanted to end a conversation. Vale was the family nobody charged and nobody crossed. Businessmen in daylight. Something older and darker after. Mara's hands went cold despite the summer heat. "You're that Damon Vale?" His expression didn't change. "Yes. And you're asking me to marry you. I'm asking you to save yourself while you save me." His jaw tightened. The faintest crack in his control. "I don't have another option." Mara swallowed. "What do I get besides a target on my back?" "The debt disappears tonight." He said it clean. No flourish. "And Cole Drayton never steps on your land again." Mara stared at him, trying to find the lie, the trick, the hidden hook, but his eyes were too exhausted for theater. "And what do you get?" she asked. Damon's gaze flickered, almost something like shame. "I keep my people alive." There it was. Not romance, not drama. Survival dressed in a suit. Mara let the rifle lower an inch. Not trust, never trust. Just gravity and curiosity. "If I say yes," she said slowly, "you don't drag me into your city house." You don't stuff me into a mansion with cameras and strangers and rules I didn't agree to. His eyes narrowed slightly. What are you saying? You live here. Mara's voice surprised even her with how steady it was. In my house, on my land. If I'm going to put my name next to yours, you step into my life. You feed chickens, you fix fences, you eat what I cook, you sleep where I tell you. And you learn what kind of man you are when nobody's clapping for you. For the first time, Damon blinked like she'd slapped him. This isn't negotiable, Mara added. I'm not selling myself to a king. If you want a wife on paper, you learn how to exist without a throne. Silence stretched. Then Damon nodded once. Agreed. Just like that. He held out his hand, big, scarred across the knuckles like he'd earned every inch of himself the hard way. Mara stared at it. This was insane. It was trading one threat for another. It was stepping into a storm because the fire behind her was already burning. But her other option was cold Drayton. Mara took Damon's hand. His grip was firm, not possessive, like a promise he'd rather die than break. I'll do it, Mara said. But hear me clearly. If you betray me, I won't scream. I won't beg. I'll end you. A flicker of something crossed his mouth, almost a smile, but not warm, more like respect. I believe you, Damon said. Mara pulled her door open wider. Get inside. You look like you haven't slept in a year. And I'm not marrying a corpse. He stepped across the threshold like he'd just walked into a different universe. The kitchen smelled like stale coffee and apple peels. Her table was scratched. The wallpaper was peeling in the corners. Damon Vale sat on a creaking chair like it might insult him, but he didn't complain. He just looked around like he was trying to memorize the simplicity. Mara poured coffee into 2 chipped mugs. Start from the beginning, she said. No dramatics, no half-truths. Damon told her. 3 weeks ago, his father died. Not peacefully. Suddenly. A stroke that took the man mid-sentence at a fundraiser. The will was revealed the next day, and it wasn't a love letter. It was a trap with a clock on it. 30 days to marry, or control transfers to his younger brother, Lucian. Your brother hates you, Mara said, reading his face. Damon's eyes stayed flat. He hates what I represent. Stability, restraint, the fact that father trusted me to lead. And this Lucian is behind Cole. Yes. Damon's voice dropped a degree colder. He's been feeding him work, sending him after vulnerable people, proving he can control fear from a distance. Mara's stomach twisted. A car engine crunched outside. Damon glanced at the window. My attorney. Mara stood, opened the door, and a silver-haired man stepped in carrying a briefcase like it was a weapon. Miss Ellison, he said, calm as stone. Graham Pierce. He set papers on her table. Thick, detailed, merciless. Mara read every line, slowly, out loud in her head. She found clauses about protection, about the debt being erased immediately, about the marriage lasting 1 year, a settlement amount if they divorced afterward, restrictions, boundaries. Add this, Mara said, looking up. He doesn't touch me without consent. Not once. Not ever. Damon didn't hesitate. Add it. Graham wrote it in. And add another, Mara said. If he uses me as a shield and then disposes of me, I leave without explanation. He doesn't hunt me down. He doesn't send people. He doesn't check in. I disappear, and he accepts it. Damon's jaw tightened, but his eyes didn't argue. Add it. Graham amended, printed, verified, slid the pages back. Damon signed first. His signature looked like a verdict. Mara held the pen over her name. Her hand trembled once. Then she thought of Cole Drayton's truck. She signed. The clock didn't stop. But something in the room changed anyway. Ceremony at 4, Graham said. Local priest. Quiet. Legal. At 4:07 a.m., Mara stood in her mother's simple dress, altered with safety pins because grief had made her smaller. The living room was cleaned too fast. Wildflowers sat in a jar. A priest with kind eyes spoke words that sounded too soft for what this was. Damon stood beside her in a clean tie, scar pale in the lamplight. When the priest asked, "Do you accept?" Damon's "I do" was immediate, certain. Mara's "I do" came after a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff. Damon slid a worn gold band onto her finger. "My mother's ring," he murmured. "I'm not using you with something meaningless." Mara looked down at the ring and felt a sting behind her eyes she didn't ask for. The priest said the final words, husband and wife, on paper. At dawn, Damon Vale drove her toward a world she'd only heard about in warnings. But the first battle wasn't bullets. It was a room full of powerful people deciding whether she was real. The council met at a private estate outside the city. White stone, cold chandeliers, men in suits who didn't smile. And when Damon walked in with Mara at his side, Every whisper in the room turned into a blade aimed at her throat. A younger man approached with a grin too bright and eyes too empty. Lucian Vale. He looked Mara up and down like she was livestock. "Oh," he said, voice dripping charm like poison. "So, this is what my brother married overnight. I thought I smelled barn dust." A few laughs popped like bubbles. Mara didn't flinch. She smiled slightly. Better barn dust than the stink of a man who hides behind thugs. Silence snapped tight. Lucian's grin faltered. Damon stepped forward, just enough to block her without making it obvious. "Insult my wife again," he said, low and lethal, "and you'll learn why father didn't trust you." Lucian leaned in, eyes sharp with hate. "This isn't finished," he murmured, "only for them. You're borrowing time, and she's borrowing your shadow." The council room felt like ice. 5 families, 5 votes. One outcome that would decide whether Mara would live in peace or wake up to Cole Drayton in her kitchen. Lucian tried to shred her with paperwork and timing. A sham, he claimed. A transaction, bought and signed. Mara listened, then she stood. "I'm not here to pretend this began like a fairy tale," she said, voice calm enough to frighten herself. "Yes, there was a contract. Yes, there was money. Yes, Damon came to my porch at midnight because we were both cornered." She looked around the room, letting every face feel seen. "But don't act like this world runs on romance," Mara continued. "Half the marriages in this room were alliances, not love letters. You just don't like mine because I don't match your decor." A murmur, uncomfortable. She turned to Lucian. "You want to call me purchased? Fine. Here's what you can't purchase. Loyalty. A spine. The kind of truth that doesn't bend because someone with money narrows their eyes." She met the council's gaze, one by one. "I gave my word, and I don't break it." Then she sat. The vote came like a gavel, 4-1. Damon Vale remained head of the family. Lucian's smile stayed on his face while his eyes promised war. That afternoon, Damon moved into Mara's farmhouse. Not into a mansion, not into luxury, into her creaking living room, where his suitcase looked too expensive for the floorboards. "You sleep here," Mara said, pointing to the pull-out couch. "Blankets in the cabinet." Damon nodded. "Understood." For the first few days, they moved around each other like strangers trapped in a hallway. Mara woke at 5, fed chickens, checked fences, worked until her hands screamed. When she came inside, Damon was already at the table with coffee, laptop open, eyes distant like the quiet itself made him uneasy. He didn't complain about her meals, eggs, soup, potatoes, toast. He ate what she served, then washed his own dishes like it was normal. That threw her off more than the guns would have. On the 7th morning, she found him outside staring at her chicken coop like it was a hostile meeting. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Feeding the chickens," Damon said, dead serious, holding the bucket like a briefcase. Mara's mouth twitched. "They're not going to negotiate with you." He opened the coop door. The chickens swarmed. A hen pecked him. Hard. He dropped the feed, grain exploding everywhere like confetti at the world's worst party. Mara laughed. It surprised her so much she almost choked on it. Damon stood in feathers and dust, staring at the chaos like he'd just discovered an enemy he couldn't intimidate. He looked at Mara's face, her real laugh, the first in years, and something softened in his eyes. "Noted," he said dryly. "Chickens fear nothing. Now you're learning," Mara said, stepping in to show him how to scatter feed slowly, how to keep calm, how to move like you belong. Later, he tried to fix a fence board and hit his own thumb. Twice. He didn't swear. He didn't quit. He pulled the board off and did it again until the sun went low and the fence finally held. That night, Mara noticed his hands were blistered, raw under the kitchen light. "Give me your hand," she said. "It's fine." "It's not." She grabbed his wrist, turned his palm up. Angry blisters, split skin, hands that didn't know manual work but refused to admit weakness. Mara cleaned the wounds, wrapped gauze around his palms, careful. Damon watched her like the tenderness was a language he'd never been taught. "You do this a lot," he said. "My dad used to rip his hands up on everything," she replied. "Mom bandaged him. Then she died. So I learned." Damon's gaze stayed on her fingers, quiet. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," she said. But her tone wasn't sharp. "Wear gloves tomorrow, boss." He huffed a small sound that might have been a laugh. Then the past came knocking again. Late afternoon. Mara was chopping onions when she heard a truck. She looked out the window and felt her blood go cold. Cole Drayton's black pickup sat in her yard like an insult. Cole climbed out with 2 men behind him, all 3 wearing that smug hunger that said, "We've done this before." "Mara, sweetheart," Cole called, voice sugary. "Time to pay." Mara stepped onto the porch with the knife still in her hand. She didn't shake. She didn't back up. "I told you," she said. "I don't have it." Cole walked up close enough she could smell cigarettes and cheap whiskey. Then we'll find another way. He lifted his hand toward her cheek. A voice behind her cut the air like a blade. Take your hand off my wife. Cole froze. Damon stood in the doorway, no jacket, sleeves rolled, eyes pure winter. Cole tried to smile, failed. Mr. Vale, I didn't know. You knew enough to come here, Damon said, stepping down the porch stairs slowly. Like each step was a sentence. Her debt is cleared. This land is off limits. Cole swallowed, sweating. Lucian didn't say. Damon's gaze sharpened. If you come back, you won't leave again. Cole's men shifted, nervous. Two shadows appeared near the tree line. Damon's security, silent as wolves. Cole backed away like his body remembered fear before his mind did. He climbed into his truck and peeled out, throwing dirt like a tantrum. Mara stood there, knife still in her hand, heart hammering. Damon turned to her. No one threatens you. On paper, Mara reminded. Damon looked at her for a long moment. Paper or not, he said quietly. I don't let anyone touch what's mine. Then he walked inside, leaving Mara on the porch with a feeling she didn't want to name. That night, Mara woke shaking. The same nightmare. The highway, the truck, the screech of metal. Her mother's scream cut short. She pressed her fist to her mouth to keep the sound inside. A knock came softly at her door. Mara, Damon's voice. Not cold, not commanding, worried. I'm fine, she lied, because she always did. Silence. Can I come in? Mara hesitated. She hated being seen broken, but something in his tone made her open the door anyway. Damon stepped in wearing simple clothes, hair slightly messy like he'd been dragged out of his own nightmares. He sat in the chair beside her bed and didn't turn on the light. Tell me, he said. Not an order, an invitation. And Mara, who had held everything alone for 2 years, found her throat opening. She told him about her parents, the market mornings, the hospital call, the too late goodbye. Her voice broke. Tears came. She didn't stop them. Damon listened without interrupting. When she finally ran out of words, he spoke quietly. My mother died when I was 12, he said. Mara looked at him. I told her tomorrow, Damon continued, staring at the dark window. She wanted to talk. I wanted to play. I said I'd come in tomorrow. His voice caught once. There was no tomorrow. Mara's heart tightened. I'm sorry, she whispered. No one knows, Damon said. I never say it out loud. They sat in the dark, 2 different lives with the same wound. Then Damon said, softer than anything he'd said before, they know you loved them. Mara's breath shuddered. She didn't ask him to stay, but her hand found his wrist, just barely. Damon understood. He stayed in the chair until her breathing slowed. For the first time in 2 years, Mara fell asleep without feeling hunted. And outside, the orchard held its breath, because Lucian Vale didn't lose gracefully, and the war was just beginning. The first time Mara realized peace could be addictive, it happened in the most humiliating place possible, the County Fall Fair. She hadn't gone since her parents died. It was where they used to sell apples by the crate, where her mother would hand out tiny paper cups of cider and laugh with strangers like the world was safe. After the accident, the fair became a museum of grief. Mara stayed away, but this year, her orchard finally had fruit again. Small, imperfect apples that still tasted like home. And Damon, for reasons she couldn't decode yet, insisted they go. You don't have to, Mara told him, watching him come out in jeans and a flannel shirt. Gloria, his stern older housekeeper, had dug out of a bag. It made him look almost normal if you ignored the scar and the eyes that never stopped scanning. I want to, Damon said, and I need to learn how you do this. Mara snorted. You're going to sell apples like you sell fear? His mouth twitched. I'm trying to unlearn things. They loaded the old pickup and drove into town. The moment they arrived, heads turned. People who used to wave at Mara now stared like she'd grown horns. The rumor machine in a small town doesn't need sleep. Mara set up the stall with practiced hands. Damon helped, awkward at first, then focused. He tried to smile at customers. It didn't look natural yet, but it wasn't fake either. More like a man practicing a muscle he hadn't used since childhood. He weighed apples, counted cash, held a toddler while the mother picked produce. The kid stopped crying the second Damon held him, wide-eyed like it could feel the steadiness under the danger. Mara watched, surprised by a warmth in her chest she didn't ask for. Near the end of the day, an older woman who ran the diner leaned in close to Mara and whispered, "Who is he?" Mara hesitated, then said, "My husband." The word tasted strange, too big for her mouth. The diner woman studied Damon, how he kept glancing at Mara like checking that she was still there. "He looks at you like he forgot the rest of the world exists," the woman murmured. Mara's face heated. "That's not," she started. then stopped because she didn't know what it was. They packed up at sunset with almost everything sold. On the way home, the truck shuddered once, then died in the middle of a dirt road surrounded by fields and moonlight. Mara turned the key again. Nothing. Great, she muttered, popping the hood. We're walking. Damon stepped beside her, looking up at the sky like he'd never noticed it before. Stars crowded the darkness, sharp and endless. It's quiet, he said. That's the point, Mara replied. They walked shoulder to shoulder. The road glowed pale under the moon. The fields looked like a silver ocean. After a long stretch of silence, Damon spoke. I like it here, he said. Mara glanced at him. You say that like it surprises you. It does, he admitted. In my world, quiet is what comes before a gunshot. Mara's throat tightened, but she kept walking. They stopped in the middle of the road without meaning to. A small wind lifted her hair and blew it into her face. Damon's hand rose, slow, gentle, and brushed the strands away from her cheek. Mara, he said, voice rough. Her heart stumbled. He leaned down and kissed her. Not the quick, obligated kiss from the wedding. Not a performance. This was careful, real, like he was afraid she might vanish if he moved too fast. Mara kissed him back before she could talk herself out of it. When they broke apart, Damon rested his forehead against hers. I don't know what this is, he whispered, but I don't want it to end. Mara didn't answer with words. She took his hand and kept walking, their fingers locked the entire way home like neither of them trusted the world not to steal this new thing. And of course, the world noticed. 2 days later, Damon had to go into the city for business he couldn't delay. He kissed Mara's forehead like he was memorizing the shape of her and promised he'd be back before dark. The second his SUV disappeared around the bend, Mara felt that old fear creep in, the feeling that every good thing gets punished. She tried to shake it off, tried to focus on dinner. Then a car pulled up at her gate. Mara looked out the window and felt ice flood her veins. A sleek sedan, clean, quiet. Lucian Vale stepped out alone, dressed like he was attending a fundraiser, not a war. He walked toward her porch with that polished smile that made her skin crawl. Mara, he said, voice sweet. Finally, we can speak without my brother hovering. What do you want? Mara asked, stepping out so he couldn't corner her inside. Lucian's smile widened, direct, cute. He pulled a file from his jacket and tossed it onto the porch step. I had you investigated, he said. Fascinating story. Orphaned farm girl. Big debt. Suddenly my brother appears and marries you overnight. Mara didn't touch the file. Lucian's eyes sharpened. I have proof the marriage is fraudulent. Contract terms. Payment line. The whole arrangement. It's not a marriage. It's a maneuver. Mara's heartbeat stayed steady. Then take it to the council. Lucian tilted his head. Oh, I will. But I wanted to see you up close first. He stepped closer, eyes cold behind. Tell me something. Do you actually feel anything for him? Or are you just clinging to the safety his name provides? Mara stared into his eyes and saw nothing human there, just appetite. He's not what you she replied. Lucian laughed softly. You've known him a month. I've known him my entire life. Damon doesn't love. Damon possesses. That's what our blood does. Mara stepped closer until they were only a foot apart. Funny, she said quietly. Because he's the one who sat in a chair beside my bed when I was shaking from grief. He's the one who bled blisters into my fence posts because I asked him to help. He's the one who threatened Cole Drayton without blinking. Lucian's smile thinned. Mara continued, voice sharpening. And you're the one who paid Cole to terrorize me for 2 years. So if anyone here understands monsters, it's me. Lucian's eyes darkened. Careful. Mara didn't flinch. Or what? You'll ruin me? I was already ruined. I built myself back with my hands. Lucian leaned in, voice low as poison. I'm calling an emergency council. I'm taking everything from him. And when his protection disappears, you go right back to being easy. He turned away, then looked back with a grin. Lock your doors better. This world is dangerous. He drove off. Mara stood on the porch, breathing through the rage. Damon came home just after sunset. The moment Mara told him Lucian had been there, Damon's eyes turned deadly. I'll end him, Damon said, already moving toward the door, like violence was a familiar jacket he could put on. Mara grabbed his wrist. No, Damon froze. We face him in the council, Mara said. Not with bullets. With truth. With control. Damon stared at her like he'd never heard that strategy in his life. Then he nodded once. Your way. 3 days later, they stood in the council chamber again. But Mara wasn't shaking this time. Lucian rose with a file thick enough to crush a man's future. He spoke like he was delivering a sermon. Honored families, he said, I present undeniable evidence that my brother's marriage is a fabricated contract designed to seize inheritance. He laid out the contract. The financial terms, the debt payoff, The timeline: midnight porch meeting, dawn wedding. Murmurs rippled, faces frowned. The room leaned toward suspicion. Lucian's smile brightened, certain. Under council law, fraud voids inheritance rights. Damon Vale is disqualified. Damon's jaw clenched so hard Mara heard it. Then Mara stood. "I'd like to speak," she said. The room went still. Mara walked to the center, not looking at Lucian, looking at the council. "Yes," she said evenly. "Everything he presented is true. There was a contract, there was money, there was a deal." Lucian's eyes gleamed like he'd won. Mara continued, "But what he can't put in a folder is what happened after." She turned slightly, eyes landing on Damon. "My husband slept on a pull-out couch in a farmhouse because I demanded it. He fed chickens and got attacked by a hen and didn't threaten it. He fixed fences until his hand split. He stood between me and the man who tormented me for 2 years. He sat beside me when I broke open from grief." The room stayed silent. Mara's voice steadied, stronger. "You want to know if this is real? At the beginning, it wasn't. It was survival." She pressed a hand to her chest. "But now, I'm here by choice." Lucian's smile twitched. Mara looked straight at the council. "You can vote based on your disgust for how it started, or you can vote based on what you actually value in this world. Loyalty, backbone, the willingness to stand beside someone when the easy option is to run." She turned toward Lucian then, eyes sharp. "And as for you, don't ever call me easy again. You're the one who needed Cole Drayton to do your dirty work because you're too weak to get your hands messy yourself." Lucian's face tightened like he'd been slapped. Mara didn't back down. Then she said the sentence that cracked the air open. "I love him." A hush, not disbelief, recognition. The room could feel truth when it walked in. The vote came like a hammer, 4-1 again. Damon kept control. Lucian stood up so fast his chair scraped. His smile was gone now, stripped down to raw hatred. "This isn't finished," he hissed. "She won't save you forever." He stormed out. On the drive home, Damon didn't speak for a long time. His hand rested on the console between them like he was waiting for permission. Mara put her fingers over his. "You said it," Damon finally whispered, voice rough. In front of them. "I meant it," Mara said. Damon lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles softly, like it was something sacred. When they reached the farmhouse, Damon didn't go to the couch. Mara led him upstairs into her small bedroom and closed the door. No speeches, no grand declarations, just two people choosing each other without the contract speaking for them. The next weeks were almost normal. They woke together, worked side by side, sat on the porch at night under stars that didn't judge them. One night, Damon talked in the dark like a man finally dropping armor. He told her about the first gun he held at 16, the first blood he spilled, the nights he couldn't sleep because sleep meant vulnerability. "I'm not a good man," he said, voice low. "I've done things you can't forgive." Mara touched his chest, felt his heart beat like proof he was still human. "Do you regret it?" His silence was the answer. "Monsters don't regret," Mara murmured. "They don't lose sleep. They don't try to change." Damon held her like he was afraid she'd evaporate. And for a little while, it felt like they'd stolen happiness from the universe. Then the universe collected. Mara decided to visit her parents' grave one afternoon. Damon wanted to go with her, but a meeting with Castellano couldn't be moved. He kissed her forehead, eyes tense with worry. "I'll be fine," Mara promised. Damon's security driver took her. The cemetery was quiet. Wind through trees, sun on stone. Mara knelt at the headstone and whispered everything she'd been holding. "I'm not alone anymore. I found someone who stands in front of me. I think you'd like him." She didn't hear footsteps. A hand clamped over her mouth. A sharp chemical smell flooded her nose. The world tilted. Darkness swallowed her whole. When she woke, her wrists were bound behind her back, ankles chained, concrete beneath her, a dim bulb buzzing overhead. A steel door opened. Lucian Vale walked in, immaculate as ever, carrying cruelty like cologne. "Awake," he said pleasantly. "Good. I hate waiting." Mara's cheek throbbed. Her throat burned, but her eyes stayed steady. "What do you want?" she asked. Lucian pulled a chair and sat like they were sharing tea. A decision. He leaned forward, smile returning. "Wrong, hungry. My brother will choose. You, or everything." Mara stared at him. "You don't understand him." Lucian laughed, sharp. "You think you do?" Mara's voice turned calm in the way that scares predators. "You've lived your whole life competing for attention. You want the Empire because you want proof you matter. But power won't fill what's hollow in you." Lucian's smile snapped. He slapped her so hard her head rang. Mara's face burned, but she didn't cry. She lifted her eyes back to him. That didn't help, did it? Lucian's jaw clenched. He stood abruptly, fury barely contained. "He'll come. he said. "And when he does, we'll see what he really is." Lucian walked out and slammed the door. Mara sat alone in the buzzing light, wrists aching, breath slow. She was terrified, but she believed something deeper than fear. Damon would come, and when he did, the war wouldn't be a vote anymore. Damon found out Mara was missing in the middle of a negotiation he didn't even remember the details of afterward. His security chief called, voice jagged. "Ambush near the cemetery. Driver knocked out. Mara gone." The room Damon was in went silent, not because he demanded it, but because something in him shifted. The air around him tightened like a fist. He didn't finish the meeting. He didn't explain. He walked out. In the SUV, his hands shook once, and he hated that they did. He mobilized everything. Phones lit up, men moved, doors got kicked in, bribes were offered, threats were whispered into ears that normally didn't flinch. Damon's network spread across the city like a net closing. He didn't sleep, he didn't eat, he didn't breathe fully until a terrified man from Lucian's crew cracked under pressure and gave a location in exchange for mercy he didn't deserve. "Warehouse," the man stammered. "Old cold storage building by the river. Basement." Damon didn't wait for strategy. He drove there with 20 men, but he didn't wait for them to form a perimeter. He walked in alone. The warehouse smelled like rust and old water, echoes of footsteps. A single light flickering in the center. Lucian Vale stood there like he'd been expecting applause, hands clasped behind his back, smile perfectly placed. "Brother," Lucian said, "faster than I thought." Damon's eyes were pure ice. "Where is she?" Lucian's smile widened, amused. "Safe, for now." Damon took a step forward. "If she has one bruise you caused, you'll die." Lucian tilted his head. "Interesting. I thought you'd hesitate. I thought you'd calculate. You always calculate." Damon's voice dropped into something older than anger. "She isn't something I calculate." Lucian's eyes narrowed. "Is she that important?" Damon kept walking, slow and deliberate, until he was close enough that Lucian's smile faltered just slightly. "You want the Empire?" Damon said. "Take it." Lucian blinked. "What? You want the accounts, the property, the votes? Take it all." Damon's jaw tightened. "I'll sign. I'll walk. I'll disappear." Lucian's grin returned, greedy. "Now we're talking." Damon's eyes sharpened. "But if you touch her again, if you hurt her, there won't be a place on Earth you can hide where I won't find you." Lucian's smile trembled at the edges. "You're insane." "Maybe," Damon said. "Or maybe she's the only thing that ever made me want to be something other than what we were raised to be." For the first time, Lucian looked unsettled. "Who is she?" Lucian whispered. "That you'd throw away everything." Damon's voice was quiet, lethal. "She's the light you tried to snuff out." Gunshots cracked outside. Damon's men were engaging Lucian's security. The warehouse filled with chaos. Boots pounding, voices shouting. Lucian's eyes flicked to the door, realizing he'd miscalculated the perimeter. He reached for his gun. Damon hit him. One brutal punch. Lucian went down hard, blood at his lip, eyes shocked. Damon didn't finish him. He didn't even look down. He ran for the basement door like his own lungs depended on it. A steel door. Locked. He kicked it open. The stairs down were damp, the air colder. At the bottom, the bulb buzzed and the concrete smelled like fear. Mara sat chained to the wall, wrists bound, cheek bruised, hair tangled. Her eyes lifted. The second she saw Damon, something in her face softened. Not relief, not weakness. Recognition. "Damon," she whispered. He dropped to his knees, hands shaking as he tore at the ropes. "Are you hurt?" "Did he—" "I'm here," Mara said, tears slipping despite her will. "I knew you'd come." Damon's breath broke. He untied her wrists, then pulled her into his arms like he could glue her back together with sheer force. "I thought I lost you," he choked. "I thought I—" Mara's arms wrapped around him tight. "You didn't." Damon lifted her face, eyes scanning every bruise with a rage that could have burned cities. Then he kissed her. Not gentle, not careful. A kiss that said, "Mine, alive, real, never again." Mara kissed him back with all the fear leaving her body at once. Above them, chaos roared. But in that basement, the world narrowed to one truth. They had chosen each other so hard, it broke the rules. Lucian's war didn't end that night. It just changed venues. 3 days later, the council convened with sharper attention than any meeting Mara had ever seen. Lucian stood in the center, wrists cuffed, face bruised, smile gone. His charm didn't work in chains. The charges were read: kidnapping the wife of a family head, treason under their law. Punishment, traditionally, was death. The room turned toward Damon, waiting for the sentence. Mara sat beside him, her hand resting lightly on his thigh, grounding him. Damon rose. Lucian's eyes flicked up, defiant. "Do it," he said quietly. "Kill me. Prove you're what we are." Damon stared at his brother for a long moment. He wanted to. He felt it in his hands. That old instinct. That easy darkness. But then he remembered Mara's voice the night after the rescue. Soft but firm. "If you kill him, you'll carry it forever. I don't want you stepping deeper into the thing you hate. I want you walking out." Damon's jaw tightened. He spoke. Exile. The word hit the room like a shock. Lucian blinked, stunned. Damon continued, voice cold and final. "Lucian Vale is stripped of assets, authority, territory. He leaves. If he returns, he dies." Lucian's lips parted like he couldn't believe mercy existed in Damon's mouth. Then, very quietly, Lucian said, "She changed you." Damon's eyes didn't soften. "No, she showed me who I could be if I stopped being you." Lucian was let out. His mother left with him without looking at Damon once. Hatred wrapped around her like a shawl. Cole Drayton wasn't so lucky. Mara never asked what happened to him. She just noticed that the late-night calls stopped. The dead animals stopped. The shadow at her gate disappeared. The farm felt quieter in a new way. Safe, not empty. Weeks turned into months. The orchard grew heavy with fruit. The fences stayed upright. The chickens remained undefeated tyrants. But Damon learned to feed them without bleeding. Damon still ran his organization, but something in him shifted. He started moving pieces away from blood and toward legitimacy. Not because the world forgave, but because he didn't want to build a future on fear anymore. One spring afternoon, Damon told Mara to come with him. He drove her to the cemetery. Mara's throat tightened the moment she saw her parents' headstone. Damon took her hand and walked her between the rows of quiet stone. They stopped at Robert and Elaine Ellison. Damon stood there a long time, silent. Then he lowered himself to his knees. Mara froze, stunned. Damon looked at the grave like he was speaking to living eyes. "My name is Damon Vale," he said quietly. "I know you didn't choose me, and if you were here, maybe you wouldn't accept what I've done in my life." His voice stayed steady, but it wasn't cold. "I'm not a good man by clean standards, but I love your daughter more than anything I've ever loved, and I swear I will protect her, honor her, and spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of what she is." Mara's eyes burned. Damon stood, turned to her, reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. He went down on one knee. "The first ring I put on your finger was survival," he said, voice rough. "This one is choice." He opened the box. A simple ring, elegant. No gaudy stones, something real. "Mara Ellison," Damon whispered. "Will you marry me again, or love?" Mara stared down at the man who'd walked onto her porch like a storm, learned how to live like a human. She dropped to her knees so they were level. "I already did," she whispered. "I just didn't know I was saying yes for." Damon's breath broke as he slid the ring onto her finger beside the worn gold band. Then he kissed her there, under the old oak, with sunlight falling through leaves like blessing. Their real wedding happened on the farm. Apple blossoms drifted in the wind like soft snow. The guests were few, the people who mattered. The council representatives came, faces neutral but eyes respectful. Damon's security stood at a distance like silent sentinels. Gloria cried through half the ceremony like she was trying to pretend she wasn't. Mara wore a dress she chose, not her mother's. But she wore her mother's pearl necklace because grief doesn't vanish. It evolves. Damon stood beneath an arch of blossoms, eyes warm in a way Mara still found unbelievable. When they spoke vows, Damon's voice shook once. "You found me in my worst shape," he told her. "And you didn't flinch. You demanded I be a man, not a myth. I will spend my life keeping the promise you forced out of me." Mara's voice trembled too. "You didn't save me with money. You saved me by standing in front of me until I remembered I could stand for myself." They kissed. And this time it wasn't obligation. It was two people choosing each other so hard it rewrote their past. Years later, the farm didn't feel haunted anymore. It became something else. A place people came to breathe. Mara and Damon started a foundation for struggling farms, loans that didn't come with threats, help that didn't come with humiliation. The first grant went to a widow with 3 kids and a collapsing barn. Mara cried when she signed the papers because she knew how it felt to have no one. Damon changed too. Not into a saint, not into a storybook hero, but into a man who used power to build more than he destroyed. And one evening, as Mara stood in the kitchen stirring soup, she heard laughter from the living room, a child's laughter. Their son, small, bright-eyed, stubborn, was trying to help Damon feed the chickens, and the chickens, as always, treated them both like entertainment. Damon looked up at Mara across the room, eyes soft. "A farm girl and a man like me," he said quietly. "Ridiculous." Mara smiled. "The best kind of ridiculous." Damon crossed the room, kissed her forehead, and for once the world didn't feel like it was waiting to punish them. Because the ending wasn't a perfect life. It was a decision. Every morning, stay. Every night, choose. And that, Mara realized, was the only fairy tale that mattered.